Pilar DeJesus is one of the boldest and brightest people coming out of East Harlem today. She has been an advocate for the legalization of marijuana and for housing rights and for social justice. She was one of the people who helped write the marijuana laws and one of the people who has pushed forward legalization of cannabis in New York State. She's so well known in Albany, she's referred to as La Problema.
AKA Pilar de Problema, pero con la solución. So, you know, Pilar the problem, but I always got solutions.
You had mentioned you were on the board of Normal.
The New York City chapter.
New York City chapter of Normal. What's Normal's current position now in rescheduling?
So no, that's a very important point. No, we want to believe decrim. Rescheduling is not enough. Rescheduling just means people still go to jail. Corporations now will get to profit. People will stay in jail. It still will be criminal, you know, having possession of cannabis would be still criminalized for that. It would also cause complications for current licensees, right? Because they will be technically really illegal to be operating. So Normal, as far as I know, position is
they would be illegal
decrim.
to be operating because they would be selling something that needed to be sold under prescription by a doctor's note. So the only thing that would be legal in New York if they rescheduled
would be the medical.
Would be the medical
With
services.
medicals. And don't quote me on that, but I believe that's how it would be MSOs, like medical folks.
So wow, that's a big deal. So that's something that the Biden administration really hasn't made very clear when they've discussed the idea of rescheduling.
It's politics.
How do you see the last 3 years? How you see it having gone?
To put it bluntly, for the social justice part of it, you know, I'm glad that we're no longer arresting, you know, Black and Latinos at the rate that we were pre-legalization. I think there was something about, don't quote me on this, but like around roughly 70,000 more or less Black and Latinos a year being arrested for cannabis, and now that number has dropped. There's still some people being arrested for cannabis, which is interesting. I'm trying to figure out why. I think the number was like 50 or 70 or something like that. But so like that makes me very, very happy, right? Because at the end of the day, it was always about the justice part, you know, the ending that part of the drug war. But when I look at the business part, it's just, you know, it kind of shows you how government is not always great, in my opinion, when it comes to understanding what we need. And so it's just been a little challenging to see, and kind of also feeling a little, you know, like a lot of the work that we put into the bill, you know, has not that it's gone to waste, because like I mentioned, there are a lot of people who are not going to jail for cannabis, but it just feels like a lot of work. Give you a visual, Cinderella, if you ever seen it, you know, in the part where she makes that dress from every like piece of scraps that she finds, and she makes this beautiful dress. She thinks it's great, and so that's kind of how I see like the bill. We've taken so much information, history, and created this bill into what it was, and then to see it like when it came to regulations and everything after, like that part where they start to strip her of everything as a my bead. At the same time, too, there are a lot of folks, you know, who are Black and Latino who have been awarded licenses more than other states, but the rollout of that has just not been great.
How would you describe? Actually, you said something very interesting before, that the state knows what they want to do, but they don't know what we need. Looking today, what does the communities need, and what does the city need?
And I also want to be clear, like when I say the state, because I just want to shout out Christopher Alexander, because he did an amazing job in the role that he played prior to getting fired, my words.
And you would be one of the few. I mean, I mean, everyone has been running away from Mr. Alexander, but you would absolutely defend as an activist and as a member of the community.
I would say that yes, he was. In my opinion, I believe those folks who are saying those things they don't understand politics, they don't understand government, they don't understand processes and how it works when you're creating a new regulated industry in a new industry that's never existed in this state, again, regulated. But Chris was, in my opinion, one of the best people we had to lead this, because not only he's a black man who was experienced, the impacts of being a black man in New York. He has been a part of the long journey to see this bill pushed the way it was. He was part of Drug Policy Alliance. He's got a lot of skills and knowledge, to me, that qualified him to lead this. It's just when you understand, he had a boss. And his boss, in my opinion, who was not involved in legalization at all.
The boss being?
Governor Hochul.
In fact, I would say very, very vocally opposed to legalization up until the moment that legalization occurred.
Yeah, she said, yes. So which is, interesting that this person that, like you just mentioned, had all these opinions when it came to cannabis, but then is dictating how someone, a black man like Christopher Alexander and other folks who are on that board, but again, I'm just, because he was the one who was, to me, targeted, he had experience and knowledge and skill sets, and he wasn't allowed to do his job. And I think that that's what happens too in America, right? Because we still live in a racist country. I think that was a perfect example to me, that it just showed white people can't just let us do what we do. He had the experience and skill sets, and for whatever reason she didn't agree, or whoever's in her ear forced it out, created in my opinion, a real shit show. It's just, sorry, I'm losing my words because it gets me very frustrated.
Now, in the last week or two, there's a massive closure of the illicit shops, but seeming in random areas. And no one knows anything of what's going on. So when you say you're frustrated, I think your frustration is an informed frustration, rather than the uninformed and very, very
ignorance
confused.
Is blessed. And going back to when you said that they aren't listening to the community, is because, we had been telling the governor, put money in the budget for technical assistance, put money in the budget for this, put money in the budget for that, and she wasn't doing it, but she made sure there was money in the budget for a stadium, right? And so this idea of like, hurry, there was this hurry up, right? Especially coming from her, we got to get started. We have all these illicit shops happening. And to be honest, when we were discussing legalization, pre-legalization, the ideas of all these stores becoming illicit shops was not a thought. Like, you see other states, there's some that come up, but it just didn't cross our mind how that would turn into what it turned into. So, but anyway, so like the hurry up was just like a bad thing to do, because you are telling people hurrying up with no structure in place. There's no funding for technical assistance to support the social equity applicants, right? Made promises, and in my opinion too, these low interest loans, that's not what I want to see. I want to see grants, reparations, because at the end of the day, we do have evidence how prohibition has caused harm to our, when it comes to shelter, when it comes to higher education, when it comes to employment, and so on. And so to be like, hurry up, but not provide any tools, not even to the, the OCM, because again, people don't know about like how you have to hire. You have to hire and create a whole new office, and there's a lot of red tape to go work in those offices. And not everybody wants to work in the government. Maybe they don't want to work, or maybe they're just they won't pass the background check. And so like a lot of folks who were like hurrying up were not thinking of like all the pieces that needed to go into play. And a lot of those people, in my opinion, are the same people who didn't take the time pre-legalization to build this bill. And then also because in those conversations I was saying, like, the easy part is getting the law passed. The hard part is regulations, because that's going to always be a constant basis. And again, you're dealing with, government, which the structure, the system is just not friendly.
The thing is that one's used to government being unfriendly, bureaucratic, and difficult. It's another thing when you have a variety of people who were criminalized, not treated well through the legal system several times, and who didn't have the support of this technical support you're talking about, like no business lawyers to talk to, no accountants to talk to. I mean, all of the legal stores have to have extremely complex digital purchasing systems, which all have to be implemented. And literally, so at the time when you were working towards helping form this legislation, you knew this, and people spoke out about it, but the state did nothing? Because literally, I've seen nothing from the state.
Nothing. I'm a business owner, co-owner of a Women of Color Worker Cooperative. And part of what we did was do a lot of educational events for free in the communities to, one, help people understand what the bill that we were working on looked like, but also like to let them know what are the things you're going to need to start thinking about. But knowing that we couldn't go too intense, because remember, regulations looks different for every state. Yeah. But we would bring in people from legalized states to come in and talk about their experience of dealing with regulations, right? And so we were sharing, but we did that on our own dollar. No government agency, no big corporation, no cookies, and none of these brands were giving us money to host these events that we did in English and Spanish translation. We provided translated services and childcare services, because at the end of the day, we knew that the community that we needed to get this information to, one, they had there was a language barrier, and then also there's childcare, right? And that problem still exists post legalization, right? There's plenty of community-based organizations that can provide the education, the technical assistance, connect to networks like, maybe some financial assistance lawyers. You got CUNY Law. They are amazing. They've always been a support for us, for me and my worker cooperative, and the work that I've done with other organizations and people. But
this is you and the people around you who are effective and intelligent. The state hasn't actually gone about the process of even handing out a flyer with any of this stuff on it to these guys. I mean, guys who, like, literally, some of them spent time in prison, and now they got their chance to open up their shop, and they're just told, have at it.
That's why I keep saying, like, the government hasn't put no money in the budget, right? So we asked for at least, and I don't remember the exact number, but earlier this year we asked for at least $150 million, I believe, to go in the budget so that community-based organizations could lead that work, because at the end of the day, these organizations have the relationships with the community. So if the government funds them, right, then they can do the work, help connect the community with the resources they need. But your governor didn't put no money in this year. She didn't put no money last year. She didn't put the money the year before, but she did put money for enforcement, which
enforcement in this context
for the city to step in and start closing down shops. Because if you notice, originally it was just the OCM, but they're not police, right? They're just a regulated office that was going in. Yeah. But now there's money in the state budget that was given to give for more policing.
Do you think in its current build, without a more limited license from CARD, do you think this iteration will work? Do you think what's going on out there is going to work, or is it going to fail?
With CARD or just regular license? Because CARD
seems to be Well, tell me, is card failed or not? Are we past card? Is what we have now, is this going to work?
I think card was just stupid. It was stupid. If we wanted to create card, we would have wrote that in the MRTA.
And it wasn't in there.
No. And so what it did was create this scramble because people were rushing. People who were not to me, in my opinion, it just made things more complicated than it needed to be. And we're past card now. Now you're at the license point. There's talking about opening the portal again. I don't know if they're going to do it soon, but now you know people who got card should be transitioning into full licenses, right? At this point now, I think, in my opinion, I think card was used as a tool to create the madness that you have. So you had all these injunctions, then to create the MSOs to get started. When there's too much chaos, you can't organize in chaos. And it created chaos. And certain individuals came out very good, a lot of individuals did not. And so I think this, in my opinion, is just kind of like what you see when you're not organized to go against the machine. The machine just creates all these fires and distractions and creates also people fighting against each other, right?
War between the poor.
Yeah, war between the poor. That's exactly what it was. And I don't think that was done by accident. I think that was done purpose. And I want to be very clear, not by Chris, but by the governor. And whoever is in her ear, her lobbyists, her cronies, because to this day you can't convince me that she's not racist.
Do you think the MSOs will stay out? New York State will keep the MSOs out? Do you think vertical integration is going to remain out? Do you think what we see today is what we got, or is this still up in the air?
I think, regulations are always going to change, right? It just depends who's in the governor's ear, whoever.
But do you want MSOs in the state?
No.
MSO multi-state operators.
Yeah. It's hard to say that they won't. They're going to get in, they're going to monopolize if we're not, good at organizing ourselves, but also not, being well at fighting back against, and which is the organizing piece, fighting back against what I like to say McDonald's weed, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. These big corporations, if you have to produce so much, you're doing it at a big scale that it's a lot of different things that will take into play with that, especially like what kind of pesticides are they using.
Petroleum-based fertilizers, pollution from ammonia nitrates, all that stuff.
Yeah, and so it's important, I believe, to really support local growers. I don't know, they're using the craft term, but whatever, small batch growers, people who are growers, cultivators, or brands that are taking pride in the product that they're providing, because at the end of the day, whether you smoke it, you digest, you eat it, it's going in your bloodstream, right? You want to know, it's bad enough we already don't know what's in our fruits and vegetables. I don't. This is part of the reason why I'm really kind of now sad that I work so hard on regulated weed, but it then becomes really hard to really know, what's good and what's not. And a lot of people out here think they got the Zaza, and who knows what is in that stuff. And so I really highly encourage home grow or small batches.
In fact, you've given seminars in the past on how to home grow in New York City.
Yeah. At the Juneteenth block party that I throw every year, the third Saturday of June in East Harlem, 111th Street, 3rd and Lex. We do a soil party, a super soil party.
And so you do soil, not hydroponics or not water.
Wow, you got to remember who you're talking to. New York State is not a state of cultivators. We've always been consumers. Not to say that there's no cultivators out there. There are, but California and a lot of those states that are not the city have been most known to be more experts in the cultivation. And here in New York, there's cultivators, but we've never been like New York City. Like a lot of people who come to the block party, they don't. A lot of them didn't know where to begin, and it's a learning how to grow. It's not a 1, 2, 3 thing if you want to produce nice flower. But yes, we do a super soil party that a grower that I am very good friends with, DC Scrogger. Shout out to DC Scrogger, who's all about education and sharing that knowledge. And so he comes out, he brings a big tarp and all this dirt and materials and rakes, and he has everybody get involved. So everyone learns how to make their own super soil, so then they don't have to really it's also very cost efficient because nutrition is all built in the super soil. And then we give out clones. This year we gave out some seeds. We help people learn how to grow, and then I've been throwing some classes in the garden.
And the garden is a garden shop under the. Explain where that is. It's on 106.
No, it's on 111th Street under the L's, the Urban Garden Center. We've hosted 2 classes there. We'll see if we're gonna be invited to do more. I'm also working with called the Herb Garden down the block to do events there. But yeah, I'm all about education and gonna start working on some programming for more youth because at the end of the day, it's still just a plant.
That's fascinating. No, it's really interesting. So how do you find the community being? Are they excited when they get their hands on? I mean, I think people are excited about getting gardening in general.
Yes, people get excited, like, oh my God, and you feel bad because half of them are going to kill the thing. But especially our elderly. Elderly folks love the plants. They love. They always want one. They love the edibles too, I noticed. They love, it's just really interesting to see now. But yeah, people always want a plant.
It's very interesting too, seeing the effect of cannabis legalization on pain management. There have been people who would have very clearly been hooked on, a variety of Oxycontins or, opioids, who are now able to, use cannabis in a way that's much more effective.
Yeah. And at the events that I host, that's the big thing, is to change the stigma, which is why at the block party I throw, which is really focused on Juneteenth, but it started, yes, because Juneteenth was a federal holiday announced that year, 2021, and it was the year we legalized. So it was freedom and changing this, free the people, free the plant, and let's end the stigma around cannabis and help people understand the benefits of the plant, understand that our bodies have cannabinoids, we're almost as one. And if we also really start learning more and more about plants, we will see how more and more we're very just like the plants. Need the sun and the water and nutrition and love.
Who gets more excited when you talk to them? Young people or the elderly?
About growing plants, about smoking?
The whole range. The whole range is it seems from what I've heard, from what I've seen, is that the people who are most interested in excited are almost the elderly.
Yeah, they definitely are hey, but yeah, the elderly for sure, especially when it comes to edibles.
That's fascinating. It's a great sort of vision of
and and not the only edibles, the creams, the oils, which is really good, especially for pain. There's a cream that a friend of mine makes. It has RSO oil, Rick Simpson oil, which is that pure part of the oil. He makes a really good balm. And I have older women who are constantly asking for some of that because it helps with their joints and pains.
East Harlem was rough, and it was rough for a very long time. And it's things have calmed down a lot. But do you think the legalization of cannabis has taken some of the power out of drug violence in New York City? Do you think that that we have reached a point that things are genuinely better and are going to stay better?
No. I think no. I mean, legalization didn't make it worse, though.
Well, it made it. I mean, I think it made it better. I mean,
yeah. It's And when you say better, what, like the criminalization, what?
And everything's sort of happening in behind closed doors, but happening in shops, and it just doesn't seem to be a lot of street crime right now in New York City. And it's certainly not a lot that's tied to hardcore drug use, which was very much like I guess for me growing up in New York City, if there was violence, it had to do with hardcore drugs.
I see what you're saying.
And weed was sort of mixed into that. Like, you know, that was you'd be trying to buy a nickel bag down the block and someone gets shot at the end of the block. Like something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, everything seems a lot calmer in New York now.
I guess, yeah, you know, maybe because they are smoking more weed. But no, I would say, where's the reparations in this? And I still always want to stress that. Like, I get it. People are like, no, well, it's a business, and da-da-da. I get it. But at the end of the day, when do we get our reparations? When do we have to continue to fight for reparations about slavery. But we know for sure, right, the cannabis prohibition was targeting Black and Latinos here in New York City. We look at the numbers. The numbers are there. The evidence is there. So, and even on a national level, but I don't. Like, when do we get our reparations? At what age? At what time? When does it happen? You know, I know there's a committee now in New York State, but like, you know, so I think the corporations that are here now ready to get in and throw their money, that won't even give money to Juneteenth, but they'll be like, use the buzzwords, they should be giving some reparations. They should be giving grants to a lot of the folks who want to get in, whether it's grants to get in the industry or grants to just stay in the house. Because right now, a lot of the folks who were targeted from the war on drugs, because again, it's my mother's grandparents, right? It's still my generation still being impacted by the war on drugs. So if the war on drugs prevented us from getting housing, higher education, a lot of these things, a lot of the people who are going through homeless issues, food insecurity, this is an aftershock from our parents having to have all these barriers put on them and doing whatever they needed to do to put food on the table, to put a roof over it. So like now you're seeing aftershocks. And so I want to see money not only by the government, but corporations. They're making a bunch of money, and they're about to step in and make a lot more money soon.
Thank you, Pilar DeJesus. Thank you very much for your time. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.